Welcome back, coin collectors. Today, we are taking a fascinating journey through the world of United Kingdom 2 pence coins, searching for the top 5 most valuable UK 2 pence coins that collectors should know about. While a normal 2p coin may look like an ordinary piece of pocket change, certain dates, varieties, minting errors, special compositions, and exceptional conditions can make particular examples much more interesting to collectors. Let's get started. First up, a United Kingdom 2 new pence coin dated 1980, particularly one found in damaged condition. At first glance, this old British decimal coin may look like an ordinary piece of pocket change, but coins like this can still be interesting because of their history, design, age, and place in the development of Britain's decimal currency. The 1982 new pence is now more than 4 decades old, making it an attractive addition to collections focused on British decimal coinage. However, when discussing rarity and value, it is extremely important to separate genuine collectible features from exaggerated internet claims. A damaged 1982 pence is generally not a $1 million coin, and its realistic market value is normally modest. The real appeal comes from its historical character, collectability, and the possibility of finding an example with an unusual variety or genuinely interesting minting error. The United Kingdom introduced decimal currency in 1971, replacing the old system of pounds, shillings, and pence. The new 2 pence coin became one of the standard denominations of the decimal system. In 1980, the United Kingdom continued producing 2 new pence coins for everyday circulation. The coin was made from bronze and carried the denomination 2 new pence on the reverse, together with a distinctive design featuring the badge of the Prince of Wales, including the Prince of Wales feathers and coronet. The obverse carried the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, making the coin part of the early decimal coinage issued during her reign. Millions of these coins entered circulation, so the ordinary 1980 issue is not considered exceptionally scarce simply because of its date. Nevertheless, its age and historical importance make it an interesting piece for collectors who enjoy building complete year-by-year sets of British decimal coins. The 1982 new pence has several characteristics that make it instantly recognizable. Its bronze composition gives it a warm copper-colored appearance when preserved properly, although decades of circulation can turn the surface darker, brown, dull, or uneven. The obverse features Queen Elizabeth II, while the reverse displays the traditional Prince of Wales feathers design and the denomination. The date 1980 appears as an important identification feature for collectors. One point that beginners should understand is that normal British decimal coins of this period generally do not have a conventional mint mark that identifies a particular royal mint facility in the way some foreign coins do. Therefore, simply finding a supposed 1980 mint mark on an ordinary 2 pence should not automatically be treated as a rare variety. Collectors should instead examine the coin carefully for genuine die varieties, striking abnormalities, unusual errors, or other documented characteristics. Now we come to the most important part of today's video, the rarity and collector demand of a damaged 1982 new pence. Damage can include heavy scratches, dents, corrosion, discoloration, edge damage, cleaning marks, pitting, or other problems caused by years of circulation and improper storage. Unfortunately, damage normally reduces rather than increases the value of a common coin. A 1982 pence that has been heavily damaged is generally less desirable than an attractive circulated example with clear details and a natural original surface. However, damage does not automatically mean worthless. Collectors of British decimal coinage may still want an example for a date set, educational collection, historical display, or research project. The situation can become much more interesting if the damaged-looking feature is actually a genuine minting error. For example, a major off-center strike, broad strike, clipped planchette, significant die error, or another authenticated mint error can attract substantially more attention than ordinary post-mint damage. This is why collectors should learn to distinguish between an error created at the Royal Mint and damage that happened after the coin entered circulation. When it comes to the current market value of a normal 1980 United Kingdom 2 new pence in damaged condition, expectations should remain realistic. Because large numbers were produced for circulation, an ordinary damaged example would generally have only a small collector value, often around 1 cent to 10 cents, depending on its exact condition and whether someone specifically needs it for a collection. An attractive circulated example can sometimes bring more than a heavily damaged one, while better preserved uncirculated pieces can command higher prices from collectors. The strongest prices are usually reserved for exceptional condition, certified examples, recognized varieties, or genuine mint errors rather than ordinary damaged coins. Auction results also vary according to the auction house, buyer interest, certification, presentation, and the exact characteristics of the individual coin. Therefore, a headline claiming that every 1982 new pence is worth thousands or millions of dollars should be treated with extreme caution. A genuine rare error could be valuable, But the ordinary damaged 1980 issue should not be valued on the basis of sensational claims. If you have a 1982 new Pence at home, the first thing you should do is examine it carefully under good lighting. Look at the date, portrait, reverse design, lettering, rim, edge, and overall surface. Do not clean the coin simply because it looks dark or dirty. Cleaning can leave scratches and unnatural surfaces that may make the coin less attractive to collectors. Instead, preserve it in a suitable coin holder or archival quality storage system. If you notice something that appears to be a genuine mint error, compare it with reliable numismatic references and, for a potentially valuable error, consider professional authentication. Also remember that rarity is determined by more than age. A coin can be over 40 years old and still be common if hundreds of millions were produced. Next up, the 1994 United Kingdom 2 pence coin, especially an example found in dirty or heavily circulated condition. At first glance, a dirty 2p coin may look like nothing more than an ordinary piece of pocket change, but every old British coin has a story, and collectors know that condition, date, design, varieties, and unusual minting characteristics can make a major difference. The 1994 2p is an especially interesting coin because it belongs to the classic pre-2008 2 pence design period, when the reverse carried the famous Prince of Wales feathers. According to current published price guide information, 531,628,000 examples were produced in 1994, so the standard circulated coin should not automatically be described as an ultra-rare coin. Instead, its collecting interest comes from its age, classic design, historical connection to British decimal coinage, and the possibility that an individual example could display an unusual error or variety. To understand this coin properly, we need to go back to the beginning of Britain's decimal currency. The 2 pence denomination was introduced in 1971 during decimalisation, and the original reverse design featured the badge of the Prince of Wales. The Royal Mint explains that more than 10 billion British 2p coins have entered circulation since the denomination was introduced, making the 2p one of the most familiar coins in modern British monetary history. By 1994, the design was already well established and had been used for more than 2 decades. The 1994 issue therefore represents an important period in the development of modern British coinage. The 1994 coin is listed with a copper-plated steel composition, a weight of approximately 7.12 grams, a diameter of 25.9 millimeters, and a smooth edge. These specifications are useful when examining a coin because unusual weight, diameter, or magnetic behavior can sometimes provide clues that an apparently ordinary coin deserves closer investigation. One of the most attractive features of the 1994 2 pence is its traditional design. On the obverse is the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II used during this period, while the reverse carries the Prince of Wales feathers design associated with the denomination. The date 1994 is another important identifying feature for collectors. When examining a dirty example, collectors should carefully inspect the date, lettering, portrait details, feathers, rim, and edge. Dirt and surface discoloration can hide small details, so a coin that initially looks unattractive may become much more interesting after careful examination. However, collectors should remember that dirt itself does not create rarity. A genuine minting error, an unusual die variety, a major striking problem, or an exceptionally preserved example can potentially be much more important than ordinary discoloration. This is why experienced collectors examine the coin before deciding what it is worth rather than judging its value simply from its appearance. Now let's talk about rarity and collector demand, because this is where the 1994 2 pence needs to be understood realistically. With a reported mintage of 531,628,000 pieces, the standard 1994 issue is not considered a low mintage rarity simply because it is from 1994. A dirty or damaged circulated example would normally have limited additional value over its face value, and current price guide data shows no listed circulated prices for the standard issue. The same guide gives indicative certified values around 65 cents at MS62, $1.35 at MS63, and about $4 for a PR63 proof example, demonstrating how strongly condition and finish can affect the market. This is actually good news for collectors because it means the real treasure hunt is not simply finding any 1994 2p, but finding something unusual within the date. Collectors should look for genuine mint errors, striking abnormalities, unusual surfaces, or exceptionally high-grade examples. British coin collecting has repeatedly demonstrated that genuine errors can attract dramatically stronger interest than ordinary examples. For instance, a different British 2p error involving the wording New Pence has attracted auction attention and has sold for hundreds of pounds. That example is from 1983, not 1994, but it illustrates why collectors should inspect their coins carefully rather than assuming that every old 2p has the same value. When it comes to current market value in US dollars, the most important message is to avoid unrealistic claims based purely on the date or dirty appearance. A normal, dirty 1994 2 pence is generally a modest value collectible rather than a coin automatically worth thousands or millions of dollars. Published market data currently places certified examples in the low dollar range, with approximately 65 cents for MS62, $1.35 for MS63 and around $4 for PR63 in the cited guide. An exceptional coin with a confirmed mint error, remarkable condition, or another legitimate variety could command a different price, and the final auction result would depend on authentication, grade, eye appeal, rarity, and competition between bidders. This distinction is extremely important for anyone creating a collection or considering an auction. A seller may advertise an ordinary coin for an enormous amount online, but an asking price is not the same thing as a confirmed auction sale. Serious collectors therefore concentrate on documented transactions and specialist opinions when establishing market value. For collectors who have discovered a dirty 1994 2 pence, the first tip is simple: do not rush to clean it. Aggressive cleaning can scratch the surface, remove original characteristics, and potentially reduce collector appeal. Instead, examine the coin under good lighting and photograph both sides clearly. Check the date, portrait, reverse design, lettering, rim, edge, and overall surface. Compare the coin with reliable references and look carefully for genuine minting abnormalities rather than ordinary wear. If something appears unusual, consider obtaining an opinion from a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service before spending money on an expensive auction listing. It is also useful to record where the coin came from and preserve it in a suitable holder that does not damage the metal. Remember that the best discoveries are not always the dirtiest or most dramatic-looking coins. Sometimes a tiny difference in design or a genuine manufacturing error is what makes a coin interesting. Next up, the United Kingdom 1971 2 pence, or 2p coin, especially one found in bad or heavily circulated condition. At first glance, a worn 1971 2 pence may look like an ordinary old coin with little value, but its historical importance makes it an interesting addition to a collection. The 1971 issue is particularly significant because it belongs to the very first generation of Britain's decimal coinage, introduced during Decimal Day as the United Kingdom moved away from the old pounds, shillings, and pence system. However, there is an important point every collector should understand. Despite many internet claims suggesting that every 1971 2p is extremely rare, the standard circulation issue was produced in enormous numbers. The Royal Mint records more than 1.4 billion 1971 2 pence coins, so a normal damaged example is generally not a rare money coin. What makes it interesting is its age, first-year status, historic design, and the possibility of finding an unusually preserved example, a genuine error, or a special variety hidden among ordinary coins. The story of the 1971 2 pence begins with one of the biggest changes in British monetary history. On the 15th of February, 1971, Britain officially decimalised its currency, introducing a system in which £1 was divided into 100 new pence. The new 2p coin was part of that original decimal family and carried the words new pence, a phrase intended to help the public distinguish the new decimal money from the traditional pre-decimal currency. The coin was struck in bronze and weighed approximately 7.12 grams, with a diameter of about 25.9 millimeters and a plain edge. Its obverse carried Arnold Machin's portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, while the reverse featured the Prince of Wales's feathers, coronet, and the motto ICHDN, together with the denomination and the words new pence. With a circulation mintage of approximately 1,454,856,000 pieces, the 1971 issue was anything but scarce in its ordinary form. Nevertheless, its first-year connection with decimalisation gives it an important place in modern British numismatic history, and collectors building complete date sets normally want a 1971 example point. One of the most attractive features of this coin is its connection to the beginning of Britain's decimal era. When you hold a 1971 2p in your hand, you are holding a coin from the first year of the modern decimal currency system. The reverse design is especially recognisable, with the Prince of Wales's feathers arranged beneath a coronet and the traditional motto ICHDN, meaning I serve. The bronze composition also gives old examples a wide range of natural colours. A coin that originally had a bright reddish-bronze appearance can develop darker brown, chocolate, or mixed tones after decades of circulation and exposure to the environment. In a bad condition example, you may see scratches, edge knocks, discoloration, surface marks and significant wear across the portrait and reverse. Those imperfections generally reduce collector value rather than increase it. This is important because damage should not automatically be confused with a rare minting error. A genuine mint error is something that occurred during production, whereas scratches, corrosion, dents and cleaning marks normally happened after the coin left the mint. Now let's talk about rarity and collector demand, because this is where the 1971 2 pence is often misunderstood. A normal 1971 new pence 2p is not considered rare simply because it is dated 1971. The Royal Mint itself states that just over 1.4 billion 1971 2p coins were struck with the new pence inscription and specifically warns that the idea that these coins are rare has developed as an urban myth. Therefore, if your example is badly damaged, heavily worn, scratched or corroded, its condition does not normally make it a valuable rarity. In fact, circulated British decimal coins of this type commonly trade very close to face value. But collectors can still appreciate a damaged example for its historical story. The real excitement begins when examining the coin carefully for something genuinely unusual, such as an authentic striking error, an unusual die characteristic, an exceptionally high-grade survivor despite its age, or a different variety that can be independently verified. The famous valuable 2p often discussed online is the 1983 2p accidentally carrying the earlier new pence wording, not an ordinary 1971 example. When it comes to current market value in United States dollars, expectations should be realistic. A heavily damaged, ordinary 1971 British 2p will generally be worth only a small amount above or around its basic face value level, and it would not normally command hundreds or thousands of dollars at auction. The difference between asking prices online and genuine completed sales is extremely important. Some sellers may list common coins at spectacular prices, but a high asking price does not prove that collectors are actually paying that amount. For comparison, certified high-grade examples can bring more attention because condition is dramatically different. PCGS currently records an auction result of $37.49 for a certified MS64 Road 1971 2p, while its records also show a much higher $11,400 result for a PCGS genuine example. Such exceptional auction records should not be interpreted as the normal value of a damaged circulation coin. The 1971 proof issue is a separate category as well, with a much smaller recorded mintage of $350,000 and a PCGS auction record of $149.99 for a PR66 Road example. For a bad condition circulation coin, however, the realistic value is usually measured in pennies or a few cents in US dollar terms rather than in large sums. Its greatest appeal is therefore historical and collectible rather than financial. For collectors who discover a worn 1971 2 pence, the first tip is simple: do not clean it aggressively. Scrubbing, polishing, or using chemicals can permanently damage the original surface and may make the coin less desirable to collectors. Instead, examine both sides under good lighting and use a magnifying glass if possible. Confirm that the date is actually 1971, check the new pence wording, inspect the portrait, look carefully around the lettering and denomination, and examine the edge for anything unusual. If you believe you have discovered a genuine minting error, take clear photographs before doing anything to the coin and compare it with reliable references or seek an opinion from a qualified. Next up, the United Kingdom 2 pence coin dated 1988, specifically an example showing a rusty or heavily discolored condition. At first glance, a rusty 1988 2 pence may appear to be nothing more than an old piece of everyday pocket change, but collectors know that the real story can sometimes be found in the date, design, metal composition, condition, and especially any unusual minting characteristics. The 1988 British 2p had a circulation mintage of approximately 419,889,000 pieces, which means the ordinary example is not considered a scarce coin simply because of its year. However, that does not mean every 1988 2 pence is identical in collector interest. A coin with an unusual mint error, exceptional preservation, proof status, or an interesting provenance can attract considerably more attention than a normal circulated example. Today, we will explore its history, design, rarity, damage condition appeal, realistic dollar values, and the important details you should check before deciding what your coin might be worth. The United Kingdom 2 pence denomination was introduced during Britain's decimalisation era, and the 1988 issue belongs to the period when Queen Elizabeth II's third portrait was appearing on British circulating coins. The obverse of the 1988 2p carries the crown portrait of Queen Elizabeth II designed by Raphael Macluf, together with the surrounding royal inscription and the date. On the reverse is the famous Prince of Wales design, featuring 3 ostrich feathers within a coronet and the motto Ich dien, meaning I serve. The design was created by Christopher Ironside and became one of the most recognizable images on British decimal 2 pence coins. The 1988 coin weighs about 7.12 grams, measures approximately 25.9 millimeters across, and is made from bronze, with a composition listed as approximately 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. Because copper-rich bronze naturally changes appearance over time, an old circulated coin can develop darker brown, reddish, or greenish tones, particularly when exposed to moisture and environmental conditions. One of the most interesting characteristics of the 1988 British 2p is its bronze composition and traditional large-size 2p format. When examining a rusty-looking example, collectors should carefully inspect both sides rather than judging the coin only by its color. Look closely at the date 1988, the Queen's portrait, the lettering, the three-feather reverse design, the coronet, the motto, and the edge. Natural oxidation, environmental staining, dirt, and corrosion can make a bronze coin look dramatically different from its original appearance. Importantly, discoloration by itself does not automatically make a coin rare. Collectors should search for genuine minting anomalies such as an unusual strike, major die error, off-center strike, wrong planchet, missing design details, or another feature that can be demonstrated as a manufacturing error. The ordinary 1988 circulation coin is known in very large numbers, while separate uncirculated and proof examples were also produced in much smaller quantities. Now let's talk about the rusty condition, because this is where expectations need to be realistic. A rusty, corroded, scratched, or heavily damaged 1988 2p is generally less desirable than a clean, sharply struck, well-preserved example. Current catalogue information places ordinary circulated examples around face value, while indicative values for better quality examples remain modest. One current guide lists approximately 50p to £1 for certain uncirculated grades, while Numista's indicative figures for ordinary 1988 examples range from only a few cents upward depending on condition and type. Therefore, the rusty coin shown in a typical collection should not automatically be described as a rare fortune. However, damaged coins can still have collecting interest when they possess a genuine mint error or unusual variety. The important distinction is between damage that happened after the coin left the mint and an unusual feature that was created during manufacturing. Collectors generally pay premiums for genuine errors, not simply for rust. Online coin communities likewise commonly distinguish ordinary damaged 1988 2p coins from genuinely unusual examples. So, what could a rusty 1988 United Kingdom 2p actually be worth in today's market? For an ordinary circulated example with rust, corrosion, scratches, or significant discoloration and without a verified mint error, a reasonable expectation is generally around 3 cents to 15 cents, with the exact amount depending on condition, buyer interest, and whether it is being sold individually or as part of a collection. Better preserved ordinary examples can move into higher ranges, and catalogue estimates for uncirculated or proof pieces can be several times face value. You may also see sensational online claims suggesting that certain 1988 2p coins are worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Such claims should be treated very carefully. A widely circulated online claim about an $18,300 1988 2p is not evidence that an ordinary rusty example is worth that amount. Extraordinary prices require extraordinary characteristics and reliable auction documentation. In the world of coin collecting, the biggest premiums normally come from verified errors, extremely unusual varieties, exceptional grades, or special proof and presentation pieces. If you have a rusty 1988 2p, the first thing you should do is avoid aggressive cleaning. Do not polish it with household chemicals, abrasive materials, vinegar, metal polish, or rough cloth, because cleaning can permanently alter the original surface and potentially reduce collector appeal. Instead, photograph both sides under good lighting and carefully record the coin's weight, diameter, edge appearance, and any unusual characteristics. Compare the coin with known examples and pay particular attention to the date, lettering, feather design, portrait, and strike. If you believe you have a genuine mint error rather than post-mint damage, consider showing it to a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service before making an expensive auction claim. Remember that rarity should always be supported by evidence. A high asking price on an internet listing is not the same thing as a confirmed auction sale. In conclusion. Next up, United Kingdom 2p coin dated 1985, especially one in circulated condition. At first glance, this may look like an ordinary old British coin, but the 1985 issue has an interesting place in the history of UK decimal coinage. The 2p was originally introduced on the 15th of February, 1971 during Britain's transition to decimal currency, and the denomination continued with the traditional bronze composition for 1985. According to the Royal Mint, the pre-1992 2p coins were made from bronze containing approximately 97% copper, 2.5% zinc, and 0.5% tin. The 1985 issue is also notable because it marked the beginning of the Raphael Macluf portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, replacing the earlier Arnold Machin portrait. If you have a circulated 1985 2p in your collection, it is certainly worth examining carefully before deciding that it is simply an ordinary 2p piece. The 1985 2p has several features that make it historically interesting to collectors. The obverse carries the crown portrait of Queen Elizabeth II with a Raphael Makhlouf design, while the reverse continues the famous Christopher Ironside design showing the Prince of Wales feathers, coronet and the motto associated with the Prince of Wales. The coin measures about 25.9 mm across and weighs approximately 7.12 grams, with a plain edge. Importantly, the normal 1985 circulation issue is not considered an extremely low mintage coin. One specialist catalogue records approximately 107,113,000 circulation pieces. That means a normal circulated example should not automatically be described as an ultra-rare coin simply because it is from 1985. However, collectors become much more interested when a coin has an unusual error, exceptional preservation, or an unusual composition. This is where the 1985 date becomes particularly exciting, because documented 1985 2p error coins struck on an incorrect silver-colored cupronickel blank have appeared on the market. Now let's talk about rarity and collector demand, especially when the coin is circulated or damaged. A normal circulated 1985 bronze 2p generally has limited premium value because large numbers were produced and circulated, and specialist price guides note that circulated decimal British coins are commonly close to face value unless they possess a significant variety or error. But collectors should never throw an old 1985 2p away without checking it carefully. The most exciting possibility is an authentic minting error. In a reported auction example, a 1985 2p that had been mistakenly struck on a cupronickel blank appeared silver in color and sold for £750, which is roughly around $1,000 depending on the exchange rate. That auction result belongs to the unusual error variety, not to an ordinary dirty, scratched, worn or circulated 1985 bronze coin. This distinction is extremely important for collectors. Damage alone normally does not create a high-value rarity, while a genuine mint error can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a major collector piece. When considering the current market value in dollars, a standard circulated 1985 United Kingdom 2p should be approached realistically rather than assuming that every example is worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. A normal worn example may trade around its low face value equivalent, while cleaner uncirculated examples can command a modest collector premium. One specialist guide lists an uncirculated 1985 example around £2, while the ordinary circulated issue is generally much less valuable. The dramatic figures you may see online are usually connected to unusual errors, certified specimens, or exceptional examples rather than ordinary circulation pieces. The strongest recent example is the reported £750 auction sale of the unusual silver-colored 1985 error, equivalent to roughly $1,000 at a broadly rounded conversion. So, if your 1985 2p is circulated and bronze-colored, its value is likely modest, but if it looks silver, has an unusual weight, or appears to have been struck on the wrong metal, it deserves much closer investigation before you sell it. Finally, if you own a 1985 United Kingdom 2 pence, handle it carefully and avoid aggressive cleaning, polishing or scratching the surface. First examine both sides under good lighting, check the date, portrait, reverse design, color and edge, and compare the coin with a normal bronze 2p from the same period. You can also weigh it accurately and check whether it is magnetic, although these tests alone cannot prove an error. If the coin appears unusually silver-colored or otherwise abnormal, professional examination or non-destructive metal testing can be worthwhile before placing it in an auction. Remember that the Royal Mint confirms that 1985 falls within the Bronze era for the 2p, before copper-plated steel was introduced in September 1992. The big lesson is that the ordinary circulated 1985 2p is not automatically a fortune, but an authenticated mint error can be a completely different story. So check your old coins, protect anything unusual, and never confuse an ordinary damaged coin with a genuine minting error. Who knows, an unusual 1985 2 pence hiding in an old collection could be far more interesting than it first appears. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our latest rare coin videos. If you enjoyed this video, share it with your fellow coin collectors, and keep checking your old coins. You never know what valuable treasure might be hiding in your collection. Moneybag.